The warning came years ago. It was short, cold, and simple. Just 6 words that echoed across the galactic network. Do not approach the Sol system. Every empire, every race, and every trading faction received it. But they all laughed. Earth. The forgotten blue world that never joined the council? The species that had vanished after their wars and silence? It was a joke among the stars. Until now. High above the edge of the Orion Arm, a fleet shimmered into existence. Massive ships, gleaming like silver scars against the black void, slid from warp space one after another. The insignia of the Velar Dominion glowed on their hulls, red and proud. Admiral Serac watched from the bridge of his command ship, the Radiant Spear. He stood tall, his 4 eyes glowing faintly under the starlight. Scanners show no response from Earth, his second officer said. No defense grids, no signals, no ships. Serac's mandibles twitched in amusement. So the humans are as primitive as the stories claim. He looked down at the small blue planet below, the homeworld of the species that once warned them all. It looked peaceful, fragile, and utterly defenseless. Prepare descent protocols, Serac ordered. We'll make orbit and send the first landing parties. Their resources will serve the Dominion. The bridge crew obeyed. None of them noticed the faint pulse of light rippling through the upper atmosphere. It lasted less than a second. Then it was gone. Far below, on the dark side of the planet, deep beneath old mountains and buried cities, something ancient stirred. For centuries, Earth had been quiet. The world's satellites had gone dark, its colonies had fallen silent, and the rest of the galaxy believed humanity was extinct. But in the silence, humanity had not died, they had hidden, rebuilt, and waited. The pulse was their first response. Human systems online. In an underground command vault, lights flickered on for the first time in generations. Dust lifted from old consoles as power surged through forgotten machines. A single AI core, named Helios Command, activated and scanned the stars. Foreign ships detected in orbit, it said, voice calm but edged with purpose. Protocol Sigma-1 authorized. A low hum filled the bunker as deep beneath the crust, massive hangars opened. Steel doors split apart, revealing rows upon rows of sleeping war machines, sleek, angular, and built from metal unknown to the rest of the galaxy. They had been silent for 100 years. Now, they woke. Above, Admiral Serac's ships began their descent through Earth's atmosphere. Fire trailed behind their hulls as they broke through the clouds. "Admiral," one of his officers called out, "there's interference. Our sensors." The lights on the bridge flickered. Screens flashed static. "What is this?" Serac snapped. No answer came. The interference grew stronger, waves of energy rippling through their systems like claws tearing through data. "Admiral, something's coming from the surface." A burst of light erupted from the dark side of the planet. Then another. Then hundreds. From the shadows of mountains and oceans, silver objects roared upward, ships, but not like anything the Dominion had seen before. Their movements were too sharp, too fast. They broke the sound barrier within seconds, leaving burning contrails of white fire. The bridge crew froze as the sensor feed cleared. They saw them. Human warships. Each vessel was lean and brutal, forged for speed and destruction. Their black hulls reflected no light, their engines burned with blue flame, and at their center pulsed an energy no Dominion scientist had ever seen. "Identify those crafts," Serac shouted. "Unknown configuration, Admiral. They're not in any database." A voice broke through the interference, low, human, and cold. "This is Terran Defense Command," it said. "You were warned." The transmission ended. The first human ships opened fire. Beams of white light slashed across the sky. Dominion shields collapsed on impact. Serac's flagship shuddered as explosions ripped through its side. "What kind of weapons are those?" Serac yelled. They're bending our energy fields. The shots go through the shields." Panic filled the bridge. Ships screamed distress signals across the comms. In moments, what had been an invasion became a massacre. Serac gritted his teeth. All ships, retreat. Get us out of orbit. But it was too late. The human fleet moved with precision, cold, perfect, merciless. Each shot hit exactly where it needed to. In under 5 minutes, half the Dominion armada burned. Serac turned toward the blue planet below. "What are they?" he whispered. No one answered. A massive shadow passed beneath his ship. From the clouds rose a colossal vessel, larger than any in the Dominion's records. It looked like a floating city, its hull engraved with faded letters, UNS Vengeance. For a moment, silence filled the stars. Then a single transmission came through the fleet's open channels. A woman's voice, steady, calm, human. "Admiral Serac," she said. "You ignored our warning. You brought war to our home. Now, you face humanity." The screen filled with white light as the Vengeance fired. And the stars burned. The explosion of the radiant spear lit the sky like a second sun. Shattered metal and burning fragments fell through Earth's atmosphere, scattering across the oceans below. Admiral Serac's fleet was broken. Out of 20 ships, only 6 still moved, and even they burned from heavy damage. On the ground, hidden deep in the mountain bunkers, the humans watched. Commander Elise Ward stood before a wall of glowing screens inside Helios Command. She wore a dark uniform marked with the faded emblem of the United Nations Defense Force. Dust clung to her shoulders, but her eyes were sharp. "How many ships confirmed destroyed?" she asked quietly. The AI answered in its calm, steady tone. 14 enemy ships neutralized. 6 remain operational but retreating. Their warp drives are unstable. Elise nodded. "Good. Make sure none of them leave orbit." Her second officer, Lieutenant Park, looked up from his console. "Ma'am, after centuries underground, our fleets are still functional. I don't know how, but they are." Elise allowed herself a thin smile. "We built them to survive anything, even extinction." Above, the human fleet moved like predators through the night sky. Black ships darted between the clouds, their engines glowing a cold blue. Every move was precise, silent, coordinated by Helios. They had no mercy left. Admiral Serac's remaining ships struggled to regroup beyond the moon's orbit. His bridge flickered with smoke and sparks. "Status," he demanded. "Shields failing, engines critical. Half the fleet destroyed." "We're being hunted, Admiral," his officer cried. Serac slammed his clawed hand on the console. "We underestimated them. I want a full scan of those human ships. Find out how they returned." But the scan never completed. The screen turned white again. Another human cruiser appeared, warping out of nothing. It moved like a shadow, then fired without warning. The blast tore through Serac's flagship, vaporizing it instantly. Serac stared at the wreckage in disbelief. They have stealth warp technology," he whispered. "Impossible." In the Dominion's history, no species had ever mastered silent warp travel. Even the oldest empires needed massive energy surges to enter or exit warp space. But the humans, these ghosts of the past, did it like breathing. On Earth, Commander Elise leaned over the console. "Helios, patch me through to the Dominion flagship." "Connection established," the AI replied. The screen flickered to life on Serac's bridge. Elise's face appeared, calm, expressionless, but with eyes that burned. "This is Commander Ward of the Terran Defense Command," she said. "You ignored our warning. You entered our system armed for war. You killed our satellites and broke our orbit lines." Serac bared his teeth. "You hide behind your machines, human. You think your tricks make you powerful? We are the Dominion. We control half the galaxy." Elise's voice did not rise. It stayed cold, steady, deadly. "Then you should have listened when half the galaxy warned you about us." She cut the link. The Vengeance fired again. A single white beam sliced through the void and struck Sirac's last support ship. The explosion expanded like a star blooming to life. The Dominion fleet was finished. Sirac's flagship drifted, powerless. Flames licked across the bridge. He turned toward his officers. Only a handful remained alive. "Prepare the distress signal," he said quietly. "Send it to the Dominion homeworld." "Admiral, they'll think we're exaggerating," his officer replied. "They won't believe." "They will," Sirac interrupted. His eyes darkened as he looked toward the blue world below. "Because soon, they'll see the fire themselves." He pressed the command. The message pulsed through subspace, a final desperate signal, coordinates, battle logs, and a single sentence. "The humans have returned." Down on Earth, Elise watched as the last Dominion ship exploded in silence. She took a slow breath. The stars were quiet again. "Status?" she asked. "All hostile ships destroyed," Helios said. "Orbital debris cleared. No further contacts detected." Elise stared at the empty space on the main display. "They'll come back," she whispered. "The Dominion won't ignore this." "Yes," the AI agreed. "Their pride will demand revenge." Elise looked around the command center, the flickering lights, the old steel walls, the worn banners of the long-dead United Earth Federation. "Then we'll be ready," she said. "This time, humanity doesn't run." Outside, the human fleet began to move again. Hundreds of dark ships spread out across the sky, forming a massive defensive grid. Each one carried weapons far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. They had waited centuries in silence. Now, their wrath was awake. From orbit, the Vengeance's captain spoke softly into the comms. "Commander, we're picking up scattered transmissions from nearby systems. News of the battle is spreading fast." Elise nodded. "Good. Let them know. Let the galaxy remember Earth's name again." A distant star blinked in the black sky. For the first time in centuries, the universe whispered the old name with fear and awe. Humanity. In the depths of space, far beyond the Orion Arm, the Dominion Council gathered in their crystal palace. Holographic displays showed the ruins of Sirac's fleet. Silence filled the grand chamber. "They were warned," one counselor said softly. "They did not believe," another whispered. The Supreme Chancellor turned, his eyes cold as he looked into the projection of Earth. "Then humanity will teach us all what it means to defy extinction." And with that, he gave the order. "Summon every fleet. We go to war." Back on Earth, Elise Ward looked up at the holographic star map as red markers began to appear, one after another, spreading like fire across the edge of known space. She exhaled slowly. So it begins again. The stars outside flickered. The silence before the next storm had come. Humanity was no longer hiding. And this time, the galaxy would burn. The silence after the battle did not last long. Across the galaxy, the Dominion's networks buzzed with confusion, fear, and disbelief. Their greatest admiral had fallen. An entire fleet, erased by a species thought long dead. But on Earth, there was no celebration. Only purpose. Commander Elise Ward stood in the command chamber of Helios Base. Around her, holographic maps flickered, marking red Dominion outposts scattered through nearby systems. The war had begun again, but this time, humanity would not wait for the enemy to arrive. "Helios," Elise said. "Prepare Operation Dawnstrike." The AI's voice echoed calmly through the room. "Acknowledged." Selecting targets within 50 light-years. Prioritizing communication relays, fuel depots, and fleet yards. Elise nodded. "We hit fast. No warnings. No survivors." Humanity had learned long ago, mercy was a luxury. Outside Earth's orbit, hundreds of warships waited in silence. Each ship bore the name of a fallen city: Tokyo, Berlin, Cairo, New York. Their engines glowed like caged stars. Then, without sound or signal, they vanished, jumping into warp space, faster and quieter than any alien system could detect. The first counterstrike had begun. In the Dominion frontier system of Kareth 9, workers moved calmly across the orbital station. Cargo drones floated between ships, carrying containers of raw ore and plasma fuel. To them, this was just another day. Until the stars blinked. For a moment, every screen on the station went black. Static filled the air. Then, without warning, the entire sky turned white. 3 human cruisers exited warp at impossible speed. Before the Dominion even raised shields, the humans fired. The first salvo cut the station in half. Explosions rippled through the structure as fuel tanks ignited. Enemy ships, unknown origin. Someone screamed across comms. It's them. It's the humans. But by the time the alarm spread, it was already too late. The UNS Tokyo unleashed a pulse wave that vaporized the remaining defenses. Within minutes, the entire Kareth 9 outpost was gone. No survivors. No signals left behind. Only silence. Back on Earth, Helios tracked every strike in real time. Red markers vanished one after another as Dominion stations fell. Lieutenant Park watched the data feed with wide eyes. They won't understand what's happening. Our ships move too fast, hit too hard. Elisa's expression stayed firm. That's the point. They made us ghosts. Now they face ghosts. Helios spoke again. Reports confirm multiple distress calls from Dominion border worlds. They describe human vessels using stealth warp, quantum cannons, and plasmalance technology. Their military believes this impossible. Elise turned to the main display. It's not impossible. It's human. Far across the stars, on the Dominion homeworld of Valera Prime, panic grew in the high command. Counselors shouted over one another, their holographic faces flickering with anger and fear. How can they strike across so many systems in one day? One demanded. They shouldn't even exist, another yelled. Our history archives said Earth fell centuries ago. The Supreme Chancellor slammed his hand against the table. Enough. If humanity has risen again, then we will crush them. Prepare the Imperial Armada. Every fleet, every soldier. His advisors hesitated. But, Chancellor, our ships cannot match their speed. Our sensors can't even track their entry points. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. Then we adapt, or we die. He turned toward the window, staring at the endless night. They think fear will protect them. They forget, we ruled this galaxy before they crawled into hiding. And we will rule again. Meanwhile, deep in warp space, the human fleet regrouped at the edge of an abandoned nebula. The vast clouds glowed blue and green, lighting the shadows of 1,000 hidden warships. Inside the UNS Vengeance, the fleet commanders gathered in the war room. 4 targets destroyed, reported Captain Reyes. Minimal losses. Dominion comms are in chaos. Elise nodded. Good. Keep them guessing. They don't know how many of us are out here. Ma'am, said Park, glancing at his console. Scans show a Dominion armada forming near the Luther system. Hundreds of ships. Elise leaned forward. Then that's where we strike next. Park hesitated. It's a full military world. They'll be ready. Elise looked at him calmly. So are we. She walked to the viewing window. Outside, the nebula shimmered like a living sea. For 100 years, humanity slept while they laughed at our silence. Now, they'll remember our voice. She raised her hand. Transmit fleet command. Helios's voice filled the bridge. Attention, Terran Defense Forces. Operation Dawnstrike Phase 2 authorized. Objective, total neutralization of Luther military complex. One by one, the human ships powered up their engines. The stars bent around them as they charged their warp drives. Helios, Elise said, her voice quiet but sharp, send a message to all captains. Recording, the AI replied. Elise looked at the display, her reflection glowing against the dark. This is Commander Ward. We are not the same species they remember. We are the children of ruin, forged in silence. The Dominion wanted to erase us, but they only made us stronger. Today, we strike not for conquest, but for remembrance. Let them feel what it means to challenge Earth. Message sent, Helios confirmed. Moments later, space tore open. The fleet jumped. At the Dominion base on Luthor, alarms blared as hundreds of contacts appeared without warning. The officers barely had time to react before the first human missiles hit. The sky turned into fire. Dominion fighters tried to launch, but human interceptors cut them down before they left the hangars. Plasma beams sliced through cruisers. Space stations broke apart in seconds. The human fleet moved like a storm, cold, coordinated, unstoppable. By the time the sun rose over Luthor's burning skies, the battle was already over. Helios transmitted the report back to Earth. Luthor system, cleared. Elise stared at the data feed, her face unreadable. How many civilian casualties? Minimal, Helios answered. We avoided population zones. Elise nodded slowly. Good. We are not monsters. Park looked up from his console. Ma'am, the galaxy knows now. Every empire is watching. Elise turned toward the stars beyond the window. Then let them watch. Let them remember what happens when humanity is ignored. The nebula behind her glowed brighter, reflecting off the hulls of the human fleet. The silence was over. The counterstrike had begun. And the stars trembled. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy shook under a single order. Every Dominion fleet, every shipyard, every soldier was called to war. News of humanity's return had spread like fire. Entire worlds went silent in fear. Others cheered in secret. But in the heart of the Dominion, anger burned hotter than any sun. On Valera Prime, the Supreme Chancellor stood before a sea of shimmering holograms, admirals, generals, commanders from 100 systems. They struck our borders. They destroyed our fleets, he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. We showed them mercy once, long ago. That mistake ends today. Behind him, the giant holomap of the galaxy glowed red where Earth's attacks had fallen. One by one, new blue icons appeared, Dominion fleets forming across every sector. Operation Reclamation, the Chancellor announced. We burn their world. We erase their name. 3 days later, the void near Jupiter filled with shadows. Helios detected them first. Massive energy signatures inbound, the AI reported. Multiple warp entries predicted. 5, no, 10 fleets. Inside UNS Vengeance, alarms flared red. Commander Elise Ward stepped onto the bridge. So they're finally coming. Lieutenant Park looked pale. That's not a fleet, ma'am. That's an armada. Thousands of ships. Elise stared at the main screen. The stars twisted, and the Dominion arrived. Hundreds of battleships broke through warp, their hulls glowing crimson with shield energy. Cruisers, carriers, and drones spread out like a metal storm. The sight was endless, wave after wave. For a brief moment, silence filled the human command deck. Even the hum of engines seemed to stop. Then Elise spoke. All units, defensive formation. Bring the planetary grids online. Let them come. From Earth's surface, hidden launch bays opened like awakening volcanoes. Defense cannons rose from mountain ridges, orbital rings shimmered as old power lines crackled with life. After centuries of sleep, Earth itself was ready to fight. The first Dominion volley hit. Flaming plasma storms rained from orbit, cutting through the upper atmosphere. Entire oceans boiled under the light. But Earth struck back. From the poles, giant kinetic launchers fired tungsten spears the size of skyscrapers. They tore through Dominion capital ships in seconds. Each impact lit the dark like sunrise. The battle stretched across the sky. Blue planet below, endless fire above. Admiral Thrax, commander of the Dominion's 4th Fleet, watched from his flagship Obsidian Crown. They've fortified the entire system, he growled. Deploy the drones. Crush their defenses. Thousands of attack drones poured from Dominion carriers, forming a black cloud that descended toward Earth. But halfway down, they stopped. A pulse of blue energy rippled out from orbit. The drones froze mid-flight, then turned around. "Admiral," shouted Thrax's technician, "they've hacked the swarm." Before he could react, the Dominion drones began firing on their own fleet. "Impossible!" Thrax roared. On the human flagship, Helios reported calmly, "Enemy command AI compromised. Swarm under Terran control." Elise smirked. "Send their toys back to them." The drones dived into Dominion lines, detonating one after another. Ships shattered. Fire filled space. But for every enemy destroyed, more arrived. The Dominion armada was endless. Hours passed. Both sides burned. On the Bridge of Vengeance, sparks flew as the ship shuddered from another near miss. "Shields at 40%. Park shouted. "Hold them," Elise said through clenched teeth. "We can't let them reach the planet." Helios interrupted, voice still calm. "Commander, I calculate a 98% chance that the Dominion will break through our outer defense line within 2 hours." Elise's gaze hardened. "Then we change the odds." She turned to Park. "Prepare Project Erebus." Park hesitated. That weapon was never tested. It could destroy half the system. "Better half a system than all of Earth," she replied. He nodded, fear in his eyes. "Understood." Deep beneath the surface, in a forgotten facility near the old equator, ancient reactors roared to life. The ground trembled as dormant generators spun faster and faster. Project Erebus, humanity's final defense, was waking. Admiral Thrax watched as his fleet closed on the planet. "We are within range. Prepare orbital bombardment." Suddenly, his ship's sensors screamed. Energy surge, from the planet itself. A beam of pure light erupted from Earth's crust, piercing through the clouds. It hit a Dominion carrier dead center, vaporizing it instantly. Then another beam. And another. The planet was fighting back. From orbit, it looked like Earth had grown eyes of fire. Thrax shouted, "All fleets, retreat to safe distance." But there was no safe distance. The Erebus weapon unleashed a final pulse, a sphere of white energy that expanded outward, devouring everything in its path. Dominion ships twisted, melted, and vanished in silence. The wave tore through half the armada before finally fading. When the light cleared, space was full of drifting wrecks. Earth still stood. On the human bridge, Elise stared at the glowing planet below. "Status?" she asked softly. Helios answered, "Erebus discharge complete. Remaining Dominion forces retreating beyond lunar orbit." Cheers erupted across the deck. But Elise didn't smile. "They'll be back," she said. "Next time, with something worse." Park wiped sweat from his face. "Then what do we do?" Elise looked out at the wreckage, thousands of broken ships floating among the stars. "We go to them," she said quietly. "Before they rebuild. Before they learn." Helios replied, "Then humanity moves to Phase 3. Outside the window, the surviving human fleet began to reform. Engines ignited. Earth had survived the Dominion's revenge. But now, humanity's real war was about to begin. And the galaxy would never sleep again. The Dominion fleets had retreated, but Earth did not rest. Commander Elise Ward stood on the bridge of the UNS Vengeance, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy. The red blots marking Dominion forces flickered weakly, destroyed, scattered, and shaken. "Phase 3, she said quietly. "We take the fight to them." Lieutenant Park's eyes widened. "Ma'am, Valera Prime? That's their homeworld. Millions of ships, their command fleets. It's a death trap." Elise smiled faintly. "That's why we don't go blindly. Helios, plot the fastest warp corridors. Avoid major patrols. Keep our fleet undetected until we reach the system." Coordinates calculated, Helios replied. Probability of full detection, 5%. Elise nodded. Good. Launch stealth squads ahead of the fleet. We hit hard, fast, and disappear before they can react. The human fleet disappeared into the blackness of space. Hundreds of ships moved like shadows, weaving through nebulae, asteroid fields, and the uncharted dark zones of the Orion Arm. Every jump through warp space was precise, every maneuver silent. On the edge of Dominion territory, scouts detected them. Dominion radar blipped red, unconfirmed contacts, but by the time reports reached the High Command, the humans were gone again. Impossible, one admiral hissed. They move faster than warp should allow. They are ghosts, another said. The Terrans we dismissed. They are no longer mortal. Deep inside the nebula of shadows, the human fleet assembled in formation. Ships gleamed under artificial light, their hulls dark and sleek. Elise stood at the command podium, addressing her fleet. For centuries, the Dominion believed humanity was extinct. They thought our silence was weakness. They were wrong. She paused, letting her words sink in. Now, we march to their heart. Every system they conquered, every fleet they lost, every world they terrorized, they will feel our justice. Today, we remind the galaxy what it means to defy humanity. A wave of quiet resolve passed through the fleet. Helios added, projection of initial strike. Valera Prime defenses can be neutralized in under 6 hours with minimal fleet exposure. Elise nodded. Then let's give them a surprise they will never forget. The first human ships arrived at the outskirts of Valera Prime's orbit. Even from light years away, the planet gleamed with pride, a massive capital city, orbital defense rings, and swarming fleets in readiness. Admiral Thrax, still recovering from the losses at Luthor, commanded the primary defense fleet. Sensors show human fleet in system, he shouted. All units to battle stations. They think we are weak, we will show them our wrath. But the humans were not weak. Stealth fighters slipped past early detection grids. Quantum missiles launched from orbit, silently moving through space and striking communication hubs. Planetary shields flickered. Entire energy conduits exploded. Impossible, Thrax muttered. Their technology, it's beyond our understanding. On the Vengeance, Elise watched the feed calmly. Helios, launch orbital strikes to neutralize their primary fleets. Keep our main force hidden. We hit one target at a time. Precision over brute force. The fleet moved like clockwork. Human cruisers darted in and out of visibility, hitting key points, then vanishing. Each strike was calculated to cause maximum disruption with minimal exposure. By the time the Dominion realized what was happening, half of Valera Prime's orbital defenses were offline. Thrax roared over comms. They have breached the inner defenses. All units engage. Shoot everything. The sky exploded in fire. Ships collided, energy beams tore through cruisers, and Dominion fighters were obliterated before they even left hangars. But the humans did not rush. They maintained formation, calculated, unstoppable. Hours passed. In the heart of the Dominion capital, the Supreme Chancellor watched the destruction through a massive holographic display. His advisors trembled. They are ghosts, one whispered. Our fleets cannot touch them. The Chancellor's eyes darkened. Then we will bait them. Draw them into the planetary grid. Our final trap. He activated hidden orbital batteries, ancient weapons of mass destruction buried deep within the planet's crust. The ground trembled as megaton charges prepared for detonation. Back on the human fleet, Elisa's sensors detected the tremors. Helios, shield the fleet and calculate safe zones. We're not just attacking a planet, we're dealing with desperation. The AI responded, calculations complete. Probability of fleet loss under 2%. Civilian and planetary damage minimal. Elise exhaled slowly. Good. Phase 2 of the strike begins. As night fell over Valera Prime, the first human ships launched synchronized orbital strikes. White beams tore through the red-lit sky, obliterating remaining fleets and crippling defense stations. Dominion soldiers were caught in chaos, scrambling without orders. In the command tower of the planet, alarms screamed. Thrax's voice echoed in panic. "Commander! How are they moving so fast? How are they everywhere?" Elise smiled faintly. "They called us extinct. They underestimated the heart of humanity. We are everywhere. We are unstoppable." Helios reported, "Orbital dominance achieved. Planetary infrastructure under human control. Resistance minimal. Objective complete." Elise looked at the stars beyond the viewport. "Valera Prime is ours, for now. But this is only the beginning. The Dominion will not surrender, they will rebuild. And when they do, humanity will be ready." The human fleet regrouped, engines glowing against the black. Valera Prime lay in silence beneath them, a symbol of what happens when the galaxy ignores Earth's warning. The march to Valera Prime was complete. The Dominion had been humbled, but the war was far from over. And humanity was just getting started. Valera Prime burned quietly beneath the human fleet, its orbital defenses shattered, its fleets crushed, and its leaders in chaos. Yet the Supreme Chancellor was not defeated. From his throne room, he activated the final command. Hidden within the planet were ancient weapons, relics of a forgotten war, doomsday cannons buried deep beneath the crust, capable of leveling continents with a single shot. "Earth will pay for its defiance," he whispered. On the UNS Vengeance, Commander Elise Ward received the readings. Helios calculated in seconds. Planetary core destabilization imminent. Estimated global casualties. Catastrophic. Probability of fleet loss if unmitigated, 90%. Elise's expression hardened. "Then we end this now." Lieutenant Park looked alarmed. "Ma'am, that's suicide." Elise's gaze swept across the fleet. "No. This is survival. The Dominion believed they could erase us. Now, we choose the battlefield." Helios transmitted orders to the fleet. Every human ship aligned in formation, engines igniting with precision. Stealth cruisers darted toward hidden weapon sites while orbital bombardment prepared the strike path. The first doomsday cannon fired. A beam of molten energy streaked through space, melting the surface of Valera Prime, sending mountains crumbling into the oceans. The humans had seconds to act. White beams from human ships struck the weapon, splitting the energy before it could reach orbit. Explosions rippled across the battlefield. Smaller cannons followed, but each was neutralized by rapid-fire precision attacks and shielded interceptors. On the ground, sabotage teams infiltrated underground facilities. Explosives planted, timers set, chaos and fire moving through corridors. Humanity's assault was surgical, leaving minimal civilian casualties but maximum disruption. From orbit, the human fleet moved as one entity. The Vengeance led the charge, with Elise standing at the command podium. Helios, deploy the quantum cannons. Quantum pulse launched, the AI confirmed. The beams of concentrated energy pierced through Dominion flagship after flagship. Shields failed instantly. Ships exploded silently, drifting debris marking their demise. The Dominion Armada, which once struck fear across the stars, fell apart under relentless, precise assault. The Supreme Chancellor watched in disbelief as the entire fleet of Valera Prime was decimated in hours. How?" he whispered, rage and fear twisting his face. "Impossible. We were the greatest empire." Elise's voice came over the planet-wide comms, calm, cold, and unwavering. "This is humanity. You were warned. You ignored us. And now the galaxy remembers our wrath." The Chancellor's throne room trembled as the last of his personal guards were eliminated by stealth strike teams. The relic weapons were destroyed, buried beneath controlled detonations that shook the planet but kept it intact. The final battle occurred above Valera Prime. Dominion warships, the last of the fleet, formed a desperate line. They fired relentlessly, but humanity's shields and coordinated maneuvers were flawless. White energy cut through the void, black hulls were torn apart, and every Dominion pilot knew the end was coming. Elisa's voice echoed across the bridge. Helios, target the flagship. Coordinates locked, the AI confirmed. The Vengeance fired a concentrated quantum lance beam. The flagship exploded in a sphere of blue-white light that reflected across the remaining ships. Panic spread across the Dominion lines. Within minutes, there were no organized fleets left. When the last Dominion ship was destroyed or in retreat, silence filled the stars. Earth's fleet hovered above Valera Prime, engines humming, hulls shining in the distant sun. The galaxy watched in awe. Elise stood at the viewing window of the Vengeance, the destruction below a reminder of the power humanity wielded. "This is our warning," she said softly. "Never again will the galaxy doubt us. Never again will anyone think humanity is weak." Helios responded, voice calm, precise, threat eliminated. Civilian casualties minimal. Planetary integrity preserved. Humanity victorious. Elise nodded. "Good. Begin recovery operations. We rebuild. We protect. And we prepare for the future. The galaxy now knows Earth is not a world to be ignored." Valera Prime's survivors began to surrender. Their leaders sent emissaries, bringing messages of peace, or, at least, submission. The Supreme Chancellor himself was nowhere to be found, believed either dead or in hiding. Across the stars, news spread: humanity had returned. Humanity had fought, and humanity had won. The galaxy would never be the same. From the depths of space, Elise Ward spoke one last time to the fleet. "Remember this victory. Remember that we are survivors, warriors, and protectors. Humanity sleeps no more. The stars belong to all of us, but they will respect us. And if anyone dares defy us again—" She paused, looking at the infinite black. "They will burn." The stars burned in response, reflecting the new era. Humanity had awakened. The galaxy would never forget the wrath of Earth.